Disney characters.
Guilty.
Clowns.
Not guilty.
Costa Concordia.
Guilty.
External memory.
Not guilty.
Google cars.
Guilty.
Itchy sweaters.
Not guilty.
Trading system.
Guilty.
Information democratization.
Not guilty.
Dark side of the internet.
Guilty.
Reality.
Not guilty.
Climate change.
Not guilty.
Day rhythm.
Guilty.
Noise pollution.
Guilty.
Governmental programs.
Not guilty.
Drugs.
Guilty.
Invisible crime scenes.
Not guilty.
Power.
Guilty.
Different intention.
Not guilty.
Caste system.
Not guilty.
Soviet Union.
Guilty.
Unspoken rules.
Not guilty.
Hierarchy and masochism.
Not guilty.
Electric chair.
Not guilty.
Liberté, égalité, fraternité.
Guilty.
Hyper.
Not guilty.
Religion as an excuse.
Guilty.
Masochism.
Not guilty.
Bad weather.
Not guilty.
Plastic.
Guilty.
Responsibility.
Not guilty.
Overpopulation.
Not guilty.
Black holes.
Guilty.
Manipulation.
Guilty.
Unquestionable.
Not guilty.
Circumstances.
Not guilty.
Trash.
Guilty.
Poverty.
Not guilty.
Transparency.
Not guilty.
Stars.
Not guilty.
Dance.
Guilty.
Potential.
Not guilty.
Nuts.
Guilty.
Ugliness.
Guilty.
Wealth.
Guilty.
Baby.
Not guilty.
Dead pixel.
Not guilty.
Smog.
Guilty.
Asphalt.
Not guilty.
Multinationals.
Guilty.
Popularization.
Not guilty.
Scientology.
Guilty.
Money.
Guilty.
Gluten.
Guilty.
GMO.
Not guilty.
Clear water.
Guilty.
HIV.
Not guilty.
Pesticide.
Guilty.
Video game.
Not guilty.
UN.
Guilty.
Sun.
Not guilty.
tourism,
Guilty.
corn,
Guilty.
illusions,
Not guilty.
fake reality,
Not guilty.
fatality,
Guilty.
energy,
Not guilty.
water,
Guilty.
disease,
Not guilty.
alcohol,
Guilty.
parents,
Guilty.
Wi-Fi,
Guilty.
machines,
Not guilty.
nurture,
Guilty.
death,
Not guilty.
splinters,
Not guilty.
birdsheet,
Guilty.
yes but,
Guilty.
drone,
Guilty.
hacking,
Guilty.
printing,
Not guilty.
society,
Guilty.
opinion,
Not guilty.
science,
Not guilty.
plan,
Guilty.
factory,
Guilty.
banks,
Not guilty.
blowhole,
Not guilty.
meltdown,
Not guilty.
Super Mario,
Guilty.
glacier,
Guilty.
headaches,
Guilty.
milk,
Not guilty.
durian,
Not guilty.
mathematics,
Not guilty.
virus,
Guilty.
education,
Not guilty.
speculation,
Guilty.
complaint,
Guilty.
identification,
Not guilty.
distortion,
Guilty.
NASA,
Not guilty.
invisible,
Guilty.
algorithm,
Not guilty.
public,
Guilty.
censorship,
Not guilty.
currency,
Guilty.
uranium,
Not guilty.
restrictions,
Guilty.
controversy,
Not guilty.
conspiracy,
Not guilty.
evidence,
Guilty.
science,
Guilty.
failure,
Not guilty.
truth,
Guilty.
ignorance,
Guilty.
floating,
Not guilty.
rituals,
Guilty.
rock,
Not guilty.
blaming,
Guilty.
private,
Not guilty.
0.
Guilty.
Destiny.
Guilty.
Fortune.
Not guilty.
Animals.
Guilty.
Borderless.
Not guilty.
Neoliberal.
Guilty.
Bullshit.
Guilty.
Environment.
Guilty.
Immunity.
Guilty.
Hit me.
Guilty.
Elite.
Guilty.
Xenophobia.
Guilty.
Traditions.
Not guilty.
Opaqueness.
Not guilty.
Fear.
Guilty.
Work.
Guilty.
Borders.
Guilty.
God.
Guilty.
Yahweh.
Not guilty.
Allah.
Guilty.
Humanitarian.
Guilty.
Propaganda.
Guilty.
Evidence.
Not guilty.
Fukushima.
Not guilty.
Privileges.
Not guilty.
Justice.
Guilty.
Democracy.
Not guilty.
Humanitarian.
Not guilty.
Propaganda.
Guilty.
Evidence.
Not guilty.